सूरत कुमार योगीराम सूरत कुमार योगीराम सूरत कुमार जय गुरुराया।
भगवान श्री योगीराम सूरत कुमार की जय। सर्वं योगीराम सूरत कुमारार्पणमस्तु। Today is a holy day, the day of Mataji Krishnabai's Mahasamadhi Day. A very special day for all of us, a day for complete worship of the divine. Nama Sankirtan and Seva and Puja. Bhagavan started the day for us with his Divya Mangala Nama, and then it has been a day of Nama. Like a fountain springing forth. It's no small grace. With deep gratitude, we have offered the Nama lotuses at the holy feet of Bhagavan with deep remembrance of Mataji Krishnabai and how she lived and what she stood for. All through her life, she was working hard for world peace, and she was encouraging everybody to chant and chant, to do japa, so that the fixed number could be made up. This is what we have to remember also. I remember the day when, by divine grace, by the grace of our Bhagavan, that I was in Tiruvannamalai on the Ratha Saptami day. Today is the Ratha Saptami day, a very special day for the Sun Lord. They say this was the day he acquired his chariot of the 7 horses. We all know the white light of the sun has 7 colors. With the merging of all these 7 colors, that makes it white. Allegorically, it is Lord, the Sun Lord, the Sun God, traveling in the chariot of 7 horses. And the Skanda Purana says, was very, very happy that he acquired this, the Ratha. This was the 7th day, so it's called Ratha Saptami. And this day, the Sun God is ready to shower his grace upon all those who remember him with deep love. He is our life force, but for his light, we would not be able to survive. And today, our bathing in the water amounts to a dip in the Ganges, the holy water, and any giving, charity done today bears enormous fruit by the grace of the Sun God. He would be so happy to reward people with all the wealth. This is what the Skanda Purana says, that particularly any charity, even a little one, done for the sake of the Sun God today will fetch freedom from poverty altogether. Now on this day, Mataji Krishnabai attained Mahasamadhi. When I had landed at the Sanadi Street house in 1989 on this Ratha Saptami day, we had no idea that Mataji was going to attain Mahasamadhi that day. She was suffering from cancer. So when we were there, Bhagwan took me and my friend inside the house, and we were seated there. He even fed us. But I remember he did not take anything at all. And then he kept saying that it was Ratha Saptami day, and this was the day Bhishma of Mahabharata fame. He too attained Mahasamadhi. And then he kept saying that Bhishma did not marry at all. And it meant he had no children at all. And therefore the whole world became his. When you give up your own bodily relationships, your relatives, then the whole world belongs to you, and you belong to the whole world. This is what he kept saying that day, that Bhishma had no son of his own to do the funeral rites, but the whole world did it for him. Why? Because of his sacrifice, he belonged to the whole world, and the whole world belonged to him. He kept on saying, then we didn't know why he was repeating it so many times. And then he let us go. In the evening again we turned up. We were a little scared because that was the time there was no regular darshan, as it came to be later on. And we were scared to present ourselves at his doorstep, that he might think it too often and turned us away. Still, we just pushed ahead, drawn by his own magnetic pull, only to find the door locked. And then it struck us that he might be in the temple, in which case we could go searching for him and stop at a distance and have darshan from there. So we went and searched, ransacked the whole place, but only in vain. And then we were returning, getting reconciled to his absence. And then suddenly, near the entrance of the temple, we saw him coming inside with L.I.C. Jairam. So we stood aside in a corner with folded hands, and we were so happy we could see him again. And we wanted to hide ourselves, because sometimes he would see and then make a gesture to asking us to go away. And then you couldn't stop there even for a second further. So we were almost hiding ourselves, afraid that he might ask us to go away. But surprise of surprises, he came straight to us. And then he gestured to me to stretch my hand. As soon as I did that, he dropped a telegram And then he went ahead. When I opened and saw, it was Christy from Anand Ashram, and the telegram read, Mataji Krishnabai attained Mahasamadhi at 7 a.m. today. Then I knew how grave the situation was. We began to follow him at a safe distance, still afraid and yet unable to control ourselves. He went to the far corner at the back side of the temple, and then he sat there in one place leaning on the wall behind. There was nobody there. So we also went and sat there. He didn't say anything. Only the three of us. L.I.C. Jayaraman, my friend and myself. And Swami was keeping complete silence. I thought I detected unshed tears in his eyes. Often he would close his eyes, go into deep silence. Otherwise, he would look up at the sky as though he was watching something. Then I guessed it must have been the funeral rites of Mahasamadhi, of Mataji Krishnabai. So we all kept our silence, though of course we were chanting the Nama inside. Around 7 o'clock, suddenly his position changed, his countenance changed. He said, "It's all over, Jayarama. It's all over, Jayarama." And then he rubbed both his hands against each other and said, "Jayarama, you have brought something for this beggar. This beggar will eat it now." That's when we realized that he did not have anything at all from morning. And at the time we found 3 green bananas. Somebody had come and kept there. There were only 3, but we were 4. Bhagwan just took it in his hand, gave one to Sri Jayaraman and one to my friend, and there was only one left, and then he looked at me. I sat there looking at him with folded hands. Then he peeled it, took half of it. He ate up half and gave the rest to me. I was so grateful, felt overwhelmed that he shared it with me. And then he took the tiffin box containing that steamed green gram that Sri Jayaraman had brought for him. He finished the whole thing without sharing it with anybody. After which, he got up silently again and started to move. We followed him up to the entrance. And then he gestured to us to go away, and he returned to his residence. It was a heavy day, filled with heavy silence for all of us, but I could never forget the atmosphere, the intense atmosphere around Bhagwan, an unexpressed, deep feeling for Mataji. And today is that day. We have to remember, recall all that she stood for, doing what she instructed, can be the only way we could worship her, we could please her. She always insisted only upon Nama chanting, ceaseless Nama chanting for the attainment of the universal Papa, Papa Ramdas. I remember another time, much before that, because I had come to Bhagwan in 86 December. My very first meeting happened on the day of sannyas of Papa Ramdas. So right from the day, I had experienced his blessings, Papa Ramdas' blessings, in abundance at times. Now I remember once, I so much wanted to settle down in Tiruvannamalai so that I could have at least a distant darshan of Bhagwan. I felt that that was my life, and there was no point in delaying it any further. So one day when I came and cried to him to permit me to stay back in Tiruvannamalai, somewhere far away from him, and I could still have the darshan. He said, "You go to Anandashram, spend some time there and come." So a friend of mine accompanied me and we went there, and every day, I could go to her room and sit with Mataji. In the evenings, Ram Nam would be going on in her room, and she would permit some of us to sit there in her presence. A few days passed, and then I wanted a private darshan of Mataji, and when I conveyed it to Swami Sachidanandaji, he arranged for it. So that day when I went to her room, when she called, Mataji was there and Swami Sachidanandaji was also there, only the two of them. And when I went near and prostrated to both of them, she said, "What do you want?" She spoke in Malayalam, and I understood Swamiji was there only to translate it into English. I said what I had always been longing to say. I said, "I want to be like you, a life of Guru Seva and sacrifice." She smiled, she looked at Swami Sachidanandaji, and Swami Sachidanandaji smiled back, and there was a meaningful exchange of looks between the two of them. And then she said, "It's a very difficult life." It sounded as though you do not know what you are asking for. That was the impression I got, but I still persisted. And then, surprisingly, she went into an elaborate description of the Kundalini process. And Swami Sachidanandaji was translating every sentence. How Guru's grace could see us through this great process to complete success. And then she said, Guru's grace, Guru's blessings are necessary. I said, Yogi Ram Sarath Kumar of Tiruvannamalai is my Guru, and you please bless me for that. She said, Papa's blessings are with you. And then smiled with so much love. Then I thanked both of them profusely and prostrated and left. When I came and reported every bit of it to Bhagwan, Bhagwan was very, very happy. He said, "Oh, she talked to you so much. And she described this. She would never do it to anybody. It's a special blessing from Mataji for you." So that I remember. And there was another time, it was 1989, probably 2 months before, or a few days before, I don't remember exactly. Now this time I'd gone to Bhagwan and I was very determined to resign my job and settle down in Tiruvannamalai once for all. So I kept on begging him and was crying. Then he said, "This beggar has no ashram. Anandashram is my ashram. Anandashram is your ashram. You can go there." You can imagine it was like a bombshell on my head. I could not accept it because all I wanted was his darshan. What would I do? Settling down in a faraway place. So I kept crying, but he said, no, you have to go to Anand Ashram. You go. Take somebody with you and go there. And I had to obey him, so I took a friend of mine. And this time, it was nearing her Mahasamadhi. She was bedridden with cancer, and the people were allowed in a line to go inside the room, one after the other. And all the time I was in Anandashram, I was crying and praying intensely that Bhagwan should permit me to stay in Tiruvannamalai, not send me anywhere. So when I came to Mataji's room, when I neared her again, I prayed and prayed for her blessings to settle down in Tiruvannamalai, that Bhagwan should permit it. And I felt I had her blessings. She was so beautiful, like a pure flower, fresh even in that condition. She was very emaciated. Yet, she was full of life and grace. So many of us came out crying. And then, of course, we returned, and then after some time we heard that she had attained Mahasamadhi. And then I realized that Bhagwan sent me there only for that, for her darshan, for my prayers. And true to what I prayed for, later I reached a point when I could no more ask anybody, even Bhagwan. It was very compulsive, and I had to do what my inner being was telling me. So I came and told Bhagwan that I was going to do it. I was resigning my job and settling down. That I wasn't going to ask him anymore. He laughed and said, "Okay, you can come now." Now it was a shock to me, because until then he kept refusing, all the time saying, "You have to do your duty. Duty is most important." But then when I decided and said I was not going to ask him, I had to come. There was no other life for me. Surprisingly, he said yes. And then I asked him why he was denying it all the while. He said, "The decision has to come from you." Then later, much later, when I read Sri Ramana Bhagavan's literature, I found a conversation. A man coming and asking Bhagavan Ramana that he wanted to leave his wife and children and come to Tiruvannamalai to pursue the spiritual life. So he was asking for permission. Ramana Bhagavan, as usual, kept quiet. He wouldn't say anything. And second time, he asked, and third time, but every time, Bhagavan Ramana, as was his wont, kept silent. And then he said, please tell me something. Then Bhagavan Ramana looked at him straight and said, don't come. Now this young man got angry. Why do you say I should not come? You came, you left everything and came. Then you know what Bhagavan Ramana said? Yes, I came. I ran away from home and I came, but I never asked anybody. That is when I understood that such decisions must come from the depths of our being. So I very firmly believe the blessings of Papa Ramdas, Mataji Krishnabai, and of course, my very life, my very breath, Bhagavan, Sri Yogi Ram Sarat Kumar. That what happened later, my coming and settling down in Tiruvannamalai. I owe a deep debt of gratitude to Mataji Krishnabai for the great inspiration that she gave me, and she is giving to everyone till today. So by filling our days amidst all our businesses with Nama for world peace, with Nama for both our inner and outer transformation, we shall now submit our today's prayer at the feet of Bhagavan. Bhagavan, every day we've been praying, and of course, slowly, gradually, everything is improving. But we beg you to free this world from such viruses completely, once for all, and bring back a healthy normalcy based upon dharma in every aspect of life. We also beg you to free our minds from all the negativities, to uproot them. And we beg you again to give protection and all-round well-being to all those people, unselfish volunteers who are working so hard for the sake of the others. We again beg you for a lift to our economy, and we pray and beg for ceaseless chanting of your name, your powerful name. We also beg you to be fine instruments in your hands so that we could run our everyday life as an offering to you. And finally, we seek that ultimate truth, that supreme blessing for complete purification, so that we could see your vibrant, living, pulsating presence in everything and everywhere. And Bhagavan, please bless us to be able to see your will, your sankalpa, and your leela in all the happenings of life. And most importantly, even in the most devastating sufferings of life, the hidden grace, your hidden smile, which is meant for our greater good, for our closer kinship with you. Even though every suffering in life comes as a result of our past karmas, due to the relentless law of karma, which would not spare anybody. Yet, compassionate Bhagavan keeps some blessing also in that, so that the suffering would shape us, push us towards God. So by your blessings, we should be able to take it as a blessing in disguise and be grateful to you. And Bhagavan, we pray again for all the species of the universe, in whatever state of being they are, to be free from that state of misery and be lifted to a higher plane. And finally, we beg you for that supreme blessing to be free once for all from the vicious cycle of births and deaths, from the deadly grip of this ego, so that we will live eternally in you, the eternal entity. Jai Yogi Ram Sir.